Have you ever noticed that when some people's lives keep circling down the same drain, they have the same money problems, the same relationships blow up, the same, oh, nothing else changes for me ever. You actually look what they're doing day to day, and it turns out they're not doing anything. Not one thing. They're just standing there in this empty field with their arms crossed, waiting to harvest something to just show up to them without having ever planted any seeds. Meanwhile, there's other people, at the same starting point, maybe even have the same bad breaks in life, but somehow year after year, their lives quietly get better and better. But what's the difference between two of it? The difference is they've each planted something different, and that's it. The whole secret right there. They planted something, each of them. And so today I want to talk about that principle, and it sounds somewhat like a bumper sticker, but it's so easy to ignore that most of us, including me, forget that it exists on most days we live, and we need to understand how it works in order to get the things we want to get in life. So the real stretch here is that when you feel stuck, you feel frustrated because there's nothing going on in your life. You have worry and complaining and planning in your head without doing any of the action of effort that is required to do anything. And if you name the emotional cost of it plainly, it's exhaustion, feeling like life is just happening to you. It's the shame of comparing yourself to other people while you seem to be stuck in place. And it's the quiet fear that you may not be the kind of person that things work out for. The moment that you realize that you're not behind, you really just hadn't planted anything yet. It's almost your first embarrassingly small, tiny step that you can take today. The principle behind it is old. It's as old as any kind of self-help that exists out there. And here's the principle about it. It's as old as any self-help book out there that you've ever read. The book of Galatians puts it this way. Whatever one sows, that he also will reap. Farmers have known this since the beginning of time. You don't plant corn and harvest apples. You don't plant nothing and get something. You have to plant something. And it's a part we skip past all the time. This isn't just true of fields. It's true of tempers, of marriages, of bank accounts, of the work in a business. Sow seeds of anger. You snap at people, you hold grudges, you let resentment simmer, and you will, with total reliability, reap more anger. It will show up on how you treat people. It'll show up how your body feels, how your relationships around you are closed down. If you sow the seeds of progress, even tiny, boring, unglamorous ones, you start to reap progress. And not always fast and maybe not always reliable or maybe in the field you expected, but it comes. When you sow the seeds of progress, you will get progress. The thing that trips, I think, most people up is timing. That nobody plants a seed on Monday and then pulls up a full-grown plant on Tuesday. Somewhere there's a gap between planting and harvesting where most people give up. And it's the mistake, well, nothing's happening yet. And for nothing is right now visible. You plant seeds. I've done that before. I planted a seed and I waited for a while. I'm like, well, where's that plant coming up? And I dig it up to go look at it. Oh, there it is. It's still underground. But you can't do that with most things in life. And so most people assume when they don't see a seed happening yet, they assume it's never going to happen. And so if we bring it back to the practical, I think most of us are in one of these types of tending fields that we have right now. Field one is the field of anger. Small daily planting, sarcastic comments, the grudges that you keep watering by replaying it over and over again, the silent treatment, and it grows fast. That's the thing. Weeds grow fast. If you have a backyard, you will know that the thing you planted, the tree that you always wanted to grow, it grows slowly. But weeds, man, they shoot up overnight. And what it grows is more conflict, more isolation, and then the body staying in this fight or flight situation. You don't want to have an angry life. You do not want to have this kind of life. And if that's what you're building, you should stop planting the seeds of anger without noticing it so that you stop growing anger plants. So then field 2, think of it an empty field. And this is the one I think that depresses me the most. This is the one I think that hurts the most to talk about, because people don't want to feel lazy from the inside. They think maybe I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the right motivation. I'm waiting for the right opportunity. I'm waiting for the right time. I'm waiting for that other person to move first. But in the meantime, you have an empty field. And unfortunately, like I mentioned before, if you have an empty field, it doesn't stay empty. It grows weeds. If you leave something alone in life, life doesn't just hold steady, it drifts backwards. It's the part that nobody warns you about, and there's no neutral option. You just think there's either action or inaction. Unfortunately, when there's inaction, something comes in and fills that vacuum. Field 3 is the field of progress, and this one is boring. It's a 10-minute walk. It's the one hard conversation you finally have. It's the dollar that you put in the bank instead of spending. It's the apology you make first without being forced into it. And none of it feels much like a glorious situation. But the mini question here is if you do that, if you plant those seeds, what do you think in that field that it gets watered every single day? Boring, but even in small amounts, what will you get after a whole season of this? It becomes unrecognizable. What season of a small planted plant does is it grows life, and it even will self-populate itself so that you get more and more life. So the math is quite simple, as by many of us are smart, capable people. But we either end up in a field where we planted something we didn't want to have, we didn't plant anything at all and weeds grew in it, or we started planting small intentional seeds and it started growing the things we wanted to get in life. And so I think the honest reason, and you can pick whichever one means the most to you, is if we're waiting for a feeling, motivation, readiness, something's supposed to come your way before you start actually planting your seed, when when you decide that you're going to act after that. I'm going to wait until the perfect man comes my way. I'm going to wait till the perfect job comes my way. I'm going to make I'm going to be so nice to that person, they're going to want to date me or hire me or something like that. And we wait. We planted maybe once and it didn't sprout fast enough, and we decided the soil was bad and we're just not it's not going anywhere, and so we just walk away from the whole thing. Or we're busy reacting to other people's harvests, their conflict, their crisis, their demands, and we never get to our own field. And somewhere along the way, we start believing that life is fixed. Nothing good will ever happen to us. That the field we have right now of our lives is never going to produce a thing. But we're also not actively planting anything. And yet, one small decision, you can start actually planting that field and watching it grow. Maybe not the next day, but it will grow eventually. And so it's not that any of these things make us lazy or broken. It makes us all very human. But when you start out, and you'll notice that majority of the time, I suggest that you just name one reason. Just as soon as you name whatever the cause of anything is, if you call it something, if you name it, you can start to deal with it. But if you just sort of look at your empty field and go, well, that's just life, my life sucks, you're not going to go anywhere with it. But when you name it, the reason starts making it clear. It won't cause your field to grow yet, but you'll understand it a little bit better. So maybe you can start planting something. So if we decide that if you want to change your whole life, it takes small steps that are concrete, little tiny steps, and pick one field. Don't pick all of them. If anger or resentment or whatever it is that is overgrowing in your field, this week's planting might just be you pausing a few seconds before you respond to things that irritate you. If your field is just empty or full of weeds because you're avoiding planting anything, maybe you make a phone call. Maybe you start writing the resume that you've been trying to write for the last 5 years. Maybe you start just going for a walk or doing 10 push-ups, or you start looking at the budget you haven't looked at for over 10 years. If you're already growing in progress, your job then this week is just to keep watering, just keep showing up, even on the days where it feels pointless, but keep doing the small steps that cause your field to grow. The size of the field doesn't match the harvest size. Well, you know that, right? Little tiny things like mustard seeds grow into big trees, and other things that are huge, like, well, I don't know how big avocados get, but avocados have big seeds and they grow up into little tiny plants. Probably they get big at some point. But it's not the size of the seed that makes all the difference in it. And that's, I think, the lie that keeps people who are paralyzed into thinking, I'm just stuck here because I don't have a big seed. I don't have a big bang thing. I don't have something I can take that would be a huge action. And they keep thinking that small action is too tiny to make a big difference in their lives. And that isn't true. Every field you've ever seen started with something that you could hold in one hand. Maybe you needed to pick up with a pair of tweezers, and that's a seed. So if you're one of these people that you're in that, a really good book for you to read is James Clear, Atomic Habits. It's built almost entirely exactly on this same principle, dressed up in habit science language, the idea of small repeated actions compounding into results bigger than they could ever look like on a single day. It's a good companion to read if you're looking for something else. If you need something to start your field growing correctly this week, name one of your fields. What is it that you need to grow? Name one plant exactly that it is that you have to get moving. Don't do 10 things, just do one thing. And then, think about what it is that you could do to start planting that seed. If you need to work on your health, what's the one thing that you could do that would be easy, that would just get you started and kicked off? If you're looking at saving money, what's the one thing you just could give up and start saving that money to just start building into something? You can go ahead and tell me something right here in the comments. You can email me at northwoodsjill@fastmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to see any way to contact me or anything I do, that's jillfromthenorthwoods.com. Appreciate it. Talk to you next time.